This guy, 1986 GMC S15 Jimmy. It needs brakes, something fierce. The good news is it can still drive itself to the parts store to get its own parts. If your project can drive you to the parts store to buy parts for itself, you're in good shape. I'll take you along for the ride and you can give a listen to the agony the brakes are in. All right, here we go. Guys, it is warming up fast today. I have money. I'm assuming you guys are picking up that squeaking, but we also have like it's kind of like a little bird. It's like, because I believe somebody has replaced the rotors with Pringles, as in they are not flat. Like you can hear it making contact, not making contact, making contact, not making contact. So not sure what we are going to find when we get into it, but I don't think it's going to be good. We're not grinding yet, but we are squeaking. I assume we're at least down to rivets, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we're just at the little squeaker maker noisy strip thing. What seems to be the warped rotors is much more concerning at the moment. So, while I say that it's much more concerning, we dragged this thing home, sort of a Craigslist adoption 3 or 4 years ago. 3? I don't know. And I don't think I've ever even taken the tires off it. And it's been making some kind of brake racket since the initial test drive. So my better half is hoping to drive this to work. She is much more used to modern cars, like the ones that stop when you hit the brake pedal. I need to do what I can to make this one more closer to that. The warped rotor, I don't know. It could be anything, you know. Some bubbas could have gotten into it, and it could be put on wrong, and that's how it got warped, or it could have just been one really, really solid emergency stop when the brakes were already pretty warmed up. So either way, we got a new set of rotors and pads waiting for us, I hope, and we'll see how this goes. It's 4-wheel drive. I've never gotten into it. It looks like a normal vehicle in that the hubs aren't sticking out like locking or unlocking. So we're gonna have to take it apart and see what we got. Alright, I live in the before times, meaning I'm like the only guy that doesn't have a 1/2-inch battery powered impact. Uh-oh. So I tend to loosen these things before I lift it up. That's interesting. And these are giving it up a little easier than I want. It's 3/4. Anyway, just trying to break them loose before we lift the car. Succeeded. We're gonna do one side at a time. That's typically a good idea. As we get going here, please note these two very handy household items: a bath towel and a baking sheet. I use these to collect all the parts that I'm taking off of something so they all live in one general area. I use this to lay on because I don't like they just don't. Anyway, so this. Now I will say, remove these from your household at your own peril. There may be someone that you cohabitate with that does not think that this is the intended use of either one of these items. I think it works pretty good. Again, you've been warned. Well, it's four-wheel drive. I've never lifted one of these before. Maybe I need a light. Alright, so my first priority when lifting a car is to not drop said car onto myself. And then my next most biggest priority is to make sure I don't drop the car on anything else that would damage the car, thus sort of exacerbating the original problem that caused us to lift the car in the first place. See what I'm getting at here? Well, we're close. We're gonna need a block, of course, you know. Try again here in a second. So, you got low cars and tall cars. You kind of need two jacks. Or blocks of wood to lay around. For crying out loud. Alright, well, normally I get an impact, but these guys were pretty loose, so I'm threading unusually easily. Unusually easily considering I know for certain that this car lives out in the weather and these wheels have not come off since we've owned it. Anyway, that's all of those. Well, see if you fellers can see that, but let's see, turn this light down just enough. This thing's got more grooves than a 45, so she's done for, but we knew that. Eyeballing this exhaust in here, maybe we'll get into it while we're in here. Ugh, it's the worst idea. All right, here we got some new stuff. Brake clean. Pads. New rotor. I get all this stuff from O'Reilly. They do not sponsor any of this stuff. I just had pretty decent luck with their parts, and their service counter treats me well, and they're very close by. So that looks right. Using the calipers that are my eyeballs. Bloop, 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 bloop. Yeah, sure. Looks close. Something smells like tuna fish though. I don't understand that. All right, so gotta pop these guys off, and then, you know, I don't have a functioning grease gun. Dang it. Here is a caliper pin off a 91 S10. Shockingly, I had it up there on the shelf, so I'm thinking that that is gonna be the same size. I'll show you this. This thing has saved my butt a million times because every time I hit a fastener that's like an, ah, dang it, it's a one of those. This thing is full of one of those. Got it, I guess, at the Home Depot because it says Husky, kind of like the jeans I used to wear when I was a little kid. It made you wear Husky jeans when you were kind of a fat kid. Die mosquito. This one claims to be a 3/8 one of these. Allen key, I guess, if you got it, because you don't have one of these guys. That feels right. That is dry. You can hear by the metal on metal squeak. So the idea, I'm sure you already know, but the brake caliper is supposed to be able to slide on this thing and center itself. So it sort of returns to a happy squish 'em position here. Those are sad noises. Sad noises. Whew. We're gonna all right, so these are out. They're okay, but they're not in great shape. So I'm gonna take them to the wire wheel and just kind of de-scum at least the edges here so that this has a little bit more slipitude. Nothing really goes on in the middle, but you know, the ends are supposed to slide inside this part of the caliper, and they're bone dry. And then there's a little bushing that's still in the caliper over here that will lube up as well. Bushing looks kind of like that. I think these are the same, but I got to keep them separate just in case. Ouch. So that's it. That just slides right off like so. If your brake lines are in halfway decent shape, they should be okay to hold the caliper. Pull these out so you can see. So this is the outer shoe. It is, we'll look at these closer in a second. The inner shoe has the little clippy guy. So I guess that side's, so this side's not quite as bad. This is interesting because obviously the grooves of this match the grooves of this. But in my experience, there's more than enough material for this to be an okay brake pad. So what that says to me is the last time they put these on, the pads were worn down to these rivets and the metal that holds this material on cut grooves in this thing, and they said, ah, that's all right. And they just went ahead and put on new pads with the really tired rotors. Looking at the new rotor, it genuinely does not appear there's anything holding it on. At this point. So I'm gonna go, just to make sure we're cool on the threads, I'm gonna get some grease, hit these, and then get a wanging stick to knock it this way. Sometimes the bearing and everything else holds the front rotors on, depending on what vintage of vehicle you've got. Variety of persuading devices. Don't know which one we'll need yet. I'm gonna go grease that up. More baking sheet. Don't tell anybody it's out here. So usually if you wang on these real good, it'll just bounce back off, but you do not want to hit your lug nuts. Those are not lug nuts, those are studs. I might be a little more gentle if I had even the slightest intentions of reusing these, but they're clearly pooched. I don't know if you can see that, but they are significantly out of round. So, yeah, for all the reasons. So much more better. Spacers are stuck in there and I don't know if that's all right or not. We're gonna leave them for now. Let's go, I'm gonna go spin these on the wire wheel. All right, for your entertainment, brought this over here. That's more better. Old and new. Anyway, if you don't do that, it's not the world's worst thing. It's just, you know, what you're looking for is the ability for these things to slide freely so the caliper can recenter. So when it does its gravitude, there's some schmutz on here. Brand new brake clean, that's fancy. These smell really weird. I don't understand. I've never used ceramic brake pads before, so we'll give them a whirl. It's sort of my kind of understanding these things, 8 rotors, a little faster. Honestly, I don't know. If you guys have an opinion, I would love to know about it actually, because I can't. The internet will convince you in any direction. So for me, I'm usually just looking for standard basic daily driver stuff. You know, like I'm not doing performance anything. I'm usually just trying to get down the road. Strong feeling these shoes are going to be too big to slide over this, so we are going to have to compress the piston. So this area is quickly becoming a mess. So the idea here is this brake piston, well, this caliper piston pushes out, thus pushing the brake shoes together. So we've got to get this thing back to its home. Now, you can usually just clamp little guys like that. I happen to have a big piece of steel. So, not a big piece, a little piece of steel that I'm going to use. Or not. I don't know. little tricky to hold this up. I'll try to show you guys while I do it. A little helper monkey. Typically does not take a great amount of effort. There's just a residual valve that holds a little bit of pressure, something like 10 pounds at the caliper, so you're not starting from scratch every time. I am not the guy really to explain brake hydraulics with you, but you know, if you don't know anything, I know a little more than that. All right, so that actually backed off a good bit. For those of you following along, basically, what we're trying to solve here is the fact that because of the wear, as these parts are made to wear, they're different thicknesses. So the caliper does not reset to 0 like wide open every time. It just compresses, then releases a little pressure. So what we're doing is pushing all that extra pressure out so we can fit in our brandy fancy new brake pads. Got it. All right, so what I'm doing wrong here, I thought these guys were symmetrical. However, what we have is a situation like this, which means this one goes on the other side so that this wear plate is facing down. All right, so this ought to center it by itself. It feels really tight. I'm not really sure what's going on. The brake shoes, pads, nay shoes, seem seated just fine. These are inherently designed to drag a little bit. But I'm wondering if they're going to be dragging too much. I'm not 100% sure what we're about to have going on. But that is on now. Let's go ahead and throw this wheel on for a half second, see if I can even turn this thing. I'll be straight with you right now. I don't know if this is user error or everything's fine or if it's a parts issue. I mean, it's not like you can go buy AC Delco stuff anymore. I mean, it's turning. The tire's also revving on the ground. I'm gonna go ahead and say, maybe we're okay. Not gonna lie, that feels way too tight to me. But maybe there's a little more the brakes can back off. Maybe they've got to wear in. Honestly, I don't know. Let's call it functioning. I drove this thing earlier today. I plan on having it in a position to be able to be run this afternoon if possible. All right guys, this should be basically reverse and repeat. Essentially the same thing as we did on the other side, just more backwards. However, because I'm feeling somewhat okay about it, I thought I'd bring you along, because it's really those times that you get surprised at how far astray things can go once you think you've got it figured out. I do have a 3/8 impact and the adapters to do this. It is not strong enough to pull these things carte blanche. It does seem the world has invested in the 1/2-inch battery-powered impact drivers. And, you know, I just... 250 American, gang. I bet they're worth it. But right now, we're doing it old-fashioned. Breaker bar, followed by ratchetification. You can already see 2 massive grooves in this thing. Given the condition of these fronts, we're going to just assume that the rears are in perfect condition and not even pop those tires off. Yeah, it's done for. It's not as bad as the other side, but I wonder if it's similarly warped. Household contraband. So basically I'm doing that so I can let it soak. The bushings in these caliper pins gave me a little trouble last time, so I'm gonna go ahead and grease those just a fuzz so that they come out a little easier this time. So short story, if you guys are trying this yourself, you need a jack, you need a jack stand, you need a 3/8, I think is what it was, Allen or ratchet adapter thing. I highly recommend the ratchet adapter thing. Like I said, that Husky kit's probably some dollars, I don't know, 30 to 50 bucks. I genuinely don't remember, but it has saved my butt so many times. So if you're doing this for the first time, just remember to do one side at a time. That way if you get confused, you can always just pop the other wheel off. Have yourself a look. They are going to be mirror images of each other, but something tells me you guys are smart out there, you can figure that out. Just trying to get this piston to push back in a little bit. Pretty tight on here. Basically just jamming the screwdriver in. Obviously it's a pretty small screwdriver, so it's not taking all that much to do it. Alright. What do we got? Not good? Whew. Guy's pretty worn. Alright, same as we did last time. Try to get this guy off. Doing the old concrete floor wobble test. This is actually semi-okay. So I've wet my hands off. They're not very greasy, but they're dirty. Either way, just trying to keep it off the surfaces. Basically, you know, grease will just kind of make the pads stick a little bit. fighting me a little bit more than usual. I'm not really sure why. A little bit of it makes me unsure if it's the ceramic shoes, if they're like maybe just a fuzz thicker. Don't know if this rotor is a fuzz thicker. I don't really, could be anything. Anything's possible. Like, I don't know what spec is on this stuff. Plus, even if I did, I can't say I would have had the patience or wherewithal to pull out a micrometer and check. Like, it's falling into place, but I feel like you shouldn't have to wang on this stuff like that. I genuinely don't think I'm doing any harm. If any of you out in TV land are freaking right out, you know, send a guy a message if I do it wrong. I'm not a total moron, but at the same time, I have screwed up a lot of things in my life. So at this point, I'm gonna pull these off, throw the tire on, drop it back down, take it for a test drive. We'll see how it goes. So far so good. It's stopping. Take it out on the road here in a second. All right, road test on 3. 1, 2, 3, road test. We'll see if we have the Pringle rotor effect at a stop sign where it kind of wants to, you know, act like the wheels are oblong. I'm so used to it. Like, I'm actually light on the pedal because I'm so used to that horrible nails on chalkboard, metal on metal, grindy, squeaky sound. There's a little bit of me that wishes I'd gotten into that exhaust leak, but stared it down, stared back at me, and man, I could tell it was more trouble than I was ready to get into. I think it would have won. Got one more turn and the speed limit's like 45, and without a doubt we'll hit every light, you know, on our way out of here. So that'll give it the real test. 50 miles an hour. Man. A gajillion times better than it used to be. Well, fellas, we did a 50 mile an hour stop, so that's gonna do it. Like I said, if you want to see more of this one, you know, type something down there and tell me what you want to see. I'll try to make sure I document it or film it or whatever. Mosquito that just needs to die. Got him. Got me first apparently though. Son of a...